Welcome to One-on-One with TJK, ladies and gentlemen. This is a beautiful day that God has given us. We praise Him and thank Him. It's outside. It's beautiful. I traveled back from Michigan thinking I need my winter clothes. Got back to Cambridge here at Harvard, and the weather is so beautiful. You will see it behind the person we are hosting today. We have promised you, ladies and gentlemen, I will bring you ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things in this world. And that's what we'll continue to do. Today, I am privileged and honored to be hosting who I would call a young man, because I'm older than him. He's doing extraordinary things in his academic pursuit, but also who has a story that many of us will learn from. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me and welcome Hamza. Hamza, welcome TJK.
Thank you, TJK, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm super excited for this. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. And let me also give you props because I've interviewed so many people, and each one of them always go Jackson. Thank you for bringing it to CJ back to the fold where it belongs. To CJ Jackson, Kaguri, and Hamza does. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sounds, of course. I'll give you a quick spiel, and then we can go into detail on anything you want. So, my name's Hamza Tahir Chaudhry. I was born in New York. Then my parents took me back to Pakistan, where they're from, for about 4 or 5 years. Spent time in Lahore and also in my dad's village for a little bit. So the way I always like to say is they kind of marinated me in the culture, and they brought me back to America, and that's where I spent the majority of my life. I mainly grew up in Jersey City, moved around a lot in America, but I'd say Jersey City is home for me. I'm in the 4th year of my PhD. I'm studying applied math. My focus is artificial intelligence and neuroscience. So kind of going both ways. One is taking inspiration from the brain to design new types of AI. And other stuff is trying to use AI to study the brain and maybe try to design things like brain-machine interfaces where computers and brains are talking to one another. So either you're reading your brain's thoughts and using that to control something, or using a computer to change the way your body moves through prosthetics.
Hamza, I took out my pen while you started talking because I was a bad math student. In fact, in my primary school, and many people who I grew up with watch these episodes, they would be laughing, going, that's right. I would take French to make up my math grades. So mathematics, neuroscience, brain operations, and you're doing a PhD in this.
Yes.
Wonderful. What inspired you as a young person to come on this journey? What role did your parents play, and how did it all come together? I want you to child, Hamza the child, and what were those dots that connected and you ended up doing a PhD in math and neuroscience and brain operations?
Got it. Okay, so I can give you the standard answer that I would give in applications to get into Harvard or whatever, but I'll give you the proper answer. So growing up, there's a lot of animals that I grew up with, like cows, goats, chickens when I was really young, and I was just fascinated with animals. There's also monkeys, and I just love the way monkeys moved around, and they're pretty clever. They'll laugh at you, they'll make jokes, they'll steal stuff from you. So I was just fascinated by animals and intelligence of different animals.
Yes.
So initially I wanted to be a zoologist or a veterinarian. And then over time, I started realizing I also wanted to work with humans. I really care about humans and their welfare. So at some point, I heard of the idea of becoming a neurosurgeon. And there's, the classic brown boy, my dad wanted me to become a doctor. And so I was all right, I'll become a doctor. It's not a bad idea. And that dream stuck with me for a little bit. And, the brain is so fascinating. It's almost a selfish endeavor on my part, studying what I'm studying, because I'm trying to figure out how I live and how I think.
Yes.
I was decent at math. Honestly, I know it's going to sound ridiculous for me to say, but I don't think I'm really the best in mathematics, despite doing a PhD in it. The thing I like about it is that no matter where you come from, what you look like, how old you are, your gender, your race, yada, yada, if you prove something in mathematics, it's going to be true regardless of anything else. So there's no like other external opinions coming into this. So when I entered college, I had the express dream of becoming a neurosurgeon. So I was planning on studying neuroscience. And like since I was decent in mathematics, I thought, all right, it would be helpful to like double major in neuroscience and mathematics, and maybe I can do like an MD PhD or something. And then based on that, like, you know, I'm seeing the future. Like, I don't want to just become a neurosurgeon. Can I design robotics that can do like an assist in neurosurgery? The first math class I took like really just like bodied me, and like it just like it's like I still think it's the hardest class I've taken relative to like my skill level, and it humbled me in a lot of ways, but it also like made me extremely interested in the idea of like proofs, because most people when they think about math they think about numbers, like can I do like multiplication quickly in my head, but I came to realize math is more about just thinking very clearly, and that's what people mean when they say that mathematics is like found in everything. I like people will tell me like mathematics is found even in English or literature. And I was like, where? Like on the page number of the book? Where's the math? No, but it really comes down to like if you have a set of assumptions, like things that you are taking for granted to be true, and you also have a way in which like you're saying logic works, then you combine these assumptions together in interesting ways, in a logical way, to make new statements. And this will work even if you do this in a different language, or if like maybe even if a different alien species. They came about, they had the same assumptions and the same rules for logic, they'll arrive at the same answers. And so there's something clear and pristine about that. And I was getting into mathematics for like the academic side, but also there's an interest almost on a philosophical side because it's trying to understand the nature of truth.
Perfect. Wow. So your dad was born and raised in Pakistan.
Yep.
End up in New York. All these animals influence you to go into zoology, but then you find your love selfishly doing something you really, really love to do. Ended up MIT, Harvard. By the way, we didn't include that. Hamza is doing that PhD right here at Harvard, combination of Harvard and MIT. Two of the top.
I'm not doing a PhD at MIT, I'll be clear. I'm working part-time at a venture capital firm that was started by MIT, but I have no formal affiliation with MIT.
All right. But you have an affiliation.
Yeah.
And Harvard being one of the hardest universities to get in for in the entire world. In our conversations before, you've told me most of this AI and technology, you just went after it and self-taught yourself. And the reason I want you to dig deeper into that, we have introduced you to several of young people who are in technology in Uganda. And the reason we recorded this is now so anybody around the world can do this, can self-learn. And interestingly, Hamza, last on Tuesday, I was in New Jersey at Rapoa University. The high schools around that area have a program that some venture capitalists in New Jersey started to help young people to have empathy, entrepreneurship, and what's the other one? Empowerment. An organization called Team. And in fact, Jared, who started it, Jared, and his team are some people I want to talk to so they can encourage other high schools around the world. But talk about self-guided learning and the curiosity that comes with it. I know God created us with a curious mind. That's why we are human beings, mammals who think and do this and other mammals can't do. Self-teaching and encourage other people around the world, young people, to use technology, but also learn more. Stay curious.
Definitely. Okay. So just to get started, I guess I feel like at the end of the day, no matter what, like even if you have a teacher, like they can't learn anything for you. You know, they'll say words to you and they'll like try to like reorganize the ideas in something that might be more familiar to you. But no matter what, it's always like self-learning. The onus is always on you. But you know, there's ways to do it that are a little bit like easier than others. And what I'll say is, you know, I didn't really grow up in a family that had like a great appreciation of math. I didn't have like doctors in my family, anything like that. Alhamdulillah, you know, one thing that my father instilled in me is like a value of education. He said like don't like he never like stressed money because he says you're not going to be buried with money. Like all you're going to take with you to the grave is like the deeds that you did, and
Oh,
that's it. And so just from a young age, I think like that really encouraged me to like get into education. So even if like my parents weren't able to help me in, like with homework or something, like it really inspired me to like care about this stuff. I'd say for learning artificial intelligence in particular, like by myself, there's a guy. He's been doing a phenomenal job. He's like one of the co-founders of like a Coursera, which is like an online website where like universities from around the world, like leading universities, will post like courses, and you can get course certificates as well. And the idea here is like you'll get like top-notch quality lectures from like Harvard researchers, MIT researchers, and they'll explain stuff, and you can even do it for free. And so growing up, I didn't really come from like a very like economically advantaged background. So I had to like take advantage of these free resources. And what I'll say is like this guy, Andrew Ng, like all credit to him. I think he's like taught probably like half of the people that work on AI. He's probably taught them how to start it. And so if you go on Coursera, like I know I'm plugging someone else's work right now, but like, this is the best place to start.
that's
And there's a bunch of great YouTube content on this as well. People like Three Blue One Brown give you like a good intuitive explanation for what's going on with an artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, people get very intimidated by mathematics, and I think that's really a failure of how teachers like teach it to you. They try to teach it to you as like some memorization like a tool, or like you have to like memorize your times table. And I grew up like 1 year in Pakistan. My dad spent his like whole education in Pakistan. And just within that 1 year in kindergarten, I learned like the way they teach stuff in Pakistan is they'll just hit you if you don't get what you're like supposed to be doing. And that's not an effective way to learn math. Yeah, exactly. And like I don't know how they think that's gonna make you understand or even like mathematics too
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think the best thing to do with mathematics, it's a little bit intimidating at first, but know that nobody is born knowing this.
That's
Like
true.
if you like work at the forefront of mathematics, you understand like how long it takes to come up with these ideas. And all you see at the end is like this pristine, crystal clear explanation. But when you're coming up with it, it's not like that at all. Like you're like in the swamp, in the gutter,
Yes.
getting down and dirty with it. And then at the end, you clear away all the filth and like present something so that you look maybe even smarter than you actually are. So there's some difficult stuff in mathematics, and you just have to be patient with yourself and understand that nobody's born knowing this, and just have a little bit of like faith that like even if it's all good things that are worth doing are pretty hard.
Really
And
hard.
like especially with AI, think about it, at the crux of it, we're trying to design a machine that can think intelligently. And like there's no way you can expect that to be like an easy endeavor, but I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor, not only just for like academic pursuit or personal pursuit, of course for like business side as well. Like a lot of jobs in the future are going to be like automated, and so learning how to do this will make sure that you're like equipped to take advantage of this like opportunity. But it's also just interesting almost on like a spiritual level, like to understand how we think, understand like how we learn. As you said before, like one of the main attributes that God gave us is our intelligence, is our ability to reason. So by trying to replicate this and like build this into something else, we are kind of doing something akin towards like trying to understand how we think, how we came to be. And it's like to me, it's like a form of worship almost.
Now you've touched on something really, really, really interesting. The subject of artificial intelligence is something that's now being used all over the place by so many people in this country and around the world. For our listeners who don't know what this is all about, please explain to them in just basic layman's language. If somebody is sitting in my village, they are sharing a pencil like I did when I was a kid, and they are going, want to listen to my hero, Twisted Jackson Kaguri, talking to this new friend of ours now. What is AI? And how should an ordinary person think about it? One. Number two, organizations, universities, students, companies. I do understand a little bit about it, we actually have a fellow here in our cohort who I want to talk to, who worked at IBM for many, many years and now is a leading expert in AI. I know a guy from IBM also who is involved in our organization, Richard Siegel, who goes way back before AI was the word everyone uses, who created that machine that beat the human person in a game. Remember that. So just
it's like IBM Watson, like when they beat
yeah, tidbits so an ordinary person can understand it, but focus more on how on every day what we do, we can actually use this artificial intelligence to market, to write papers, to get clarity or research on different subjects we are involved in.
Got it. That's a fantastic question. So I'll try my best to like give like an intuitive explanation. So I'm not going to go into like how do we design these AI systems, like exact details. I'll kind of give you an example of like how to use one or like what the point of even having one is. So we're all familiar with computers, you know, like even if we're not computer scientists or know how to program them, we know that they can aid us in our task. And, you know, like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of things that are going around that people nowadays call AI that are just the same things that we had before, just computers just automating a task for you. And beforehand, you had to like kind of like explicitly tell the computer how to do these things in a very precise way. The hope of machine learning is to like an AI is to like have these computers learn how to do these tasks in a similar way that humans do it, by example. So, you know, you have a bunch of data. So let's say in the example of me writing an essay, like how have I learned to write essays? Well, I've read a lot of books. I've seen a lot of examples of essays.
Yes.
And so the whole point of AI is that we have a ton of data, a ton of examples of like text, like essays on Wikipedia or just on the internet in general. And so you can train something like a machine learning model, it's called. It's also called specifically a neural network to learn how to like replicate this phenomenon. So like if I give in some part of an essay, like you'll have the machine learning model try to complete it. So, you know, maybe you've had some experience using stuff like autocomplete, like when you're texting your friends, like your phone will automatically recommend what you're going to do next. This is how these AI models like ChatGPT work. Okay. They'll predict what the next word is going to be in like whatever you're trying to say. And so just to clarify, I'm sure like there's some people that don't know what ChatGPT is as well. Yes. This is like the most famous like AI algorithm I think right now, and it's like it was a huge milestone in like recent research because, you know, beforehand like natural language processing, which is like using computers to like work with like natural language like English as opposed to explicitly programming. It's a very hard field. Sorry, what's up?
No. I was saying yes, sir. That's really perfect. So now put the people at ease. I come from a Christian background. My sisters who will watch this are going to go, oh my God, humans are trying now to create another human being. They are trying to act like God.
Yeah.
Technology is a tool, and you as an expert can reemphasize this, that has both sides. So there is great technology that will take us to the next level, but there's also unintended consequences.
Yeah, 100%.
So a little bit about that, then I would like to go into your mission and passion for education around the world using technology. But just put at ease my sisters, please.
Yeah. Well, look, like your sisters' worries are not like absurd. I don't think they're coming from like a ignorant place at all. Like I actually sometimes worry about this stuff as well. Like I'll talk to scientists and, you know, they'll make claims that are at the end of the day like religious or philosophical, and they'll like overstep like the boundaries that science can actually help you in. But what I'll say is, of course, like every technology comes with its goods or bads, but this is a technology you can think about it in a different way. Like one idea is like, oh, they're trying to make themselves like God. They're trying to replace God. Another way is like, I'm trying to use this tool to serve God's creation. So if I can use AI in a beneficial way, such as like trying to like predict if there's going to be a climate catastrophe in a specific area and like evacuate people so that they don't get injured. I would not say that's like me doing any form of like idolatry or blasphemy towards God. I think that's me trying to serve him. But at the same time, I'll hear other people say like, oh, you know, once we design really good AI, then like we can like just have AI rule the country for us, or like AI rule the government, the courts. And to me, that becomes like you're putting too much faith in this machine learning algorithm. You're putting this whole idea that it's like an actual human. And the current AI systems we have right now are not conscious. I don't think that's a hot take, but that's definitely what I believe. Some people might disagree with me. I don't think we have to worry about that stuff because that at the end of the day becomes a question of the soul. And I don't know how science is going to answer that personally.
You are absolutely right. I am with you. People might not believe you, but I believe you, Hamza. We also know that anything AI, computer, algorithm, coding, it's the human brain that God created that is creating it. You are telling the computer what they can do. And my understanding of this whole AI research and what goes in is now there is an algorithm that can go gather all information, all the books anybody has read in the world and put into one space called internet is collected. Instead of just read one book in Uganda, another one reads in Pakistan, now you can read all together a summary of 5 books in one ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT.
Yeah,
and
it's super useful.
You introduced me to it, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And this also ties into something I've said on every interview. This channel is to help people learn, unlearn, and relearn. What you just said about how people can misuse it is to help my sisters learn and learn that this is going to replace God's brain and relearn how to use it, hopefully, on their phones. So there we go. And for other people who are also listening that didn't know what is happening. Now I would like you to talk a little bit more about your passion for education. The first time we met right here at Harvard School of Education, Graduate School of Education, the moment they introduced me and read my bio, he said, I would like to educate the world, as many young people as possible, using technology. And you and I share that passion. So please talk about it, and maybe you can also expound a little bit. How did that, you talked about your dad telling you, you cannot die and die with your man. It's the deeds you did in the world that will remain here. There are so many quotations around that. Your dad is my hero. I'd like to meet him one of these days, and while I'm in New York, and talk a little bit. I know right now he's sitting at some relaxing place in Malaysia, Indonesia.
Yeah, he was in Malaysia. Yeah, I went to visit him recently. It was a good time, just like in the middle of my PhD. That's one of the benefits of AI research and just AI work. You can do it remotely, so you can travel the world, and so have a fantastic time. But yeah, sure, like education. Why education in particular? So that's
why education.
During COVID, you know, everyone had to be kind of confronted by themselves and like think about like what exactly are they doing with their time? Like, why are they here? And I grew up with a lot of people that, you know, like either they didn't have like fathers or they didn't have like parents at all. I grew up with a lot of orphans in my life that I'm very close to. And I also grew up with like people that like I actually 100% believe were much smarter than me, but they didn't have access to the same resources, or maybe even if they have access to the same resources, they didn't have the right guidance to allow them to take advantage of this. And so, you know, like there's so many like things that one can work on in terms of like trying to help the world and like have a positive impact. The thing that I really care about is that I would like to enable people to take advantage of the resources that are available around them to provide for themselves and like feel a sense of like control and agency over their life. So I don't believe in this whole idea of like, oh, I'm going to go to some poor country and like give out food, give out t-shirts, give out like whatever I think they need, as though I know what they need in their life better than they do. Of course, like aid is very important and it's like a way to segue, but like the whole hope is to, you know, teach a man how to fish and to give that man or that woman a purpose in their life, and so that they can provide not only for themselves but for their own local communities.
That's
So
right.
along that line, like I'm very interested in like working with schools and orphanages, especially in developing countries, but also in developed countries and like poor areas. And before you get to the whole idea of education, you have to optimize stuff like food, water, shelter, security, healthcare, mental health care, and all the stuff that your organization Yaka has been like doing a tremendous job working on. But like I also view like the whole a huge end game of this to be like teaching these young people, not just teaching them math, also teaching them stuff like narrative intelligence, teaching them like culture, teaching them how to like be good human beings in some capacity, however one wants to define that. And along those lines, I see like a huge potential for artificial intelligence and like helping the youth, because one of the biggest issues in remote countries, such as like let's say like a village in Pakistan, is like getting a highly skilled teacher that can teach the youth in their language state of the art stuff. But we have the internet, and we have stuff like ChatGPT, and Khan Academy is also partnered with OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. Khan
Yeah.
Academy, if you guys don't know, is like an online education platform. I learned a lot from them. Sal Khan has done a tremendous job. He's one of my heroes, honestly. And
Yeah.
so, like, they've come up with like a ChatGPT style bot called Conmigo that can enable like students to like ask it questions, and it'll teach them in a systematic way. So instead of just giving you the answer, it'll teach you how to think for yourself on the answer. So my goal is, there's a huge amounts of economic opportunities that AI and software engineering and web development and these like technical tools will provide, like young people, not just kids. And the hope is to make sure that like this economic opportunity is not just concentrated on already well-to-do people that have come from good backgrounds. I want it to be kind of universalized so that people in like more disadvantaged areas can take advantage of this opportunity and like bring in the wealth and like the knowledge from that's being developed all over the world to their own local community and develop it for the better.
Very, very, very good. Yeah. So spreading this around the world, it's possible because we can use technology as long as you have access to internet. You can.
Yeah.
And many years ago, when we started trying to get Khan Academy to the villages of Uganda, we didn't have internet connection. Somebody introduced me to raspberries. We would load Khan Academy some YouTube learning tools and take them to Nyaka Primary School and Secondary. That's how Rita became the computer scientist she is, the one who is in under your umbrella mentoring. And the Nabothis, the Kajuras, the Sharifs all used those raspberries to get to where they are. And I want to also thank you for really extending your reach of teaching and guiding and mentoring. One of the things we've talked about a lot also on this channel is the importance of mentoring, being a mentee, and helping others also to follow in your footsteps. So I thank you for sharing your time. I thank you for the work you do and the research you do. Before we conclude and ask you to give advice to young people, is there something you want to talk about today that I didn't touch on? That's the mind of a PhD student right there thinking about anything that you would like the audience to know. And
Yeah.
every guest I also promise them we can always do part 2 because the world evolves every single day.
And this world is evolving faster and faster, it seems. Well, first thing I'd like to say is, thank you for not only having me on, but also like allowing me to like work with these like young men and women because they're very intelligent. I'm actually like very inspired by working with them, and I'm like very excited to see like what they do with this stuff.
Yes.
And like you've also given me an opportunity to start getting like an inside look at what the problems that these youth face. Like Uganda is one example, but for me, like I don't really care if someone's from Pakistan or Uganda or like Chile.
Yes.
Like we're all like God's children. And so one opportunity that maybe I haven't mentioned for online education is like a problem that I've seen like in like my own local community back in Pakistan, and that's like stuff like women's education. That's also a problem within like women's education in Afghanistan because you have political turmoil, and depending on like whatever like the political regime in power, fields. Some people, I think, like completely idiotically believe that women aren't allowed rights to education. And so online education I view as a tool to not solve this problem entirely, but it allows women and like young girls to get access to education they wouldn't otherwise have.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, I also want to like encourage people not to only think about like education as something that's for young people. Like your whole life, like what else are we here to do if not to like learn about like how beautiful like this world that God gave us is. And so, like even if you're like 76 years old, like my father, chilling in Malaysia, like, whenever I visit him, I teach him a little bit about AI. He was never good at math, or so he claims. He's actually better at like doing the computations, like adding up the numbers like quickly than I can. He's better at bargaining than I am as well. But like there's a huge idea that like we're born with specific gifts. And like of course everyone has their own blessings and we have to take advantage of that to the best degree possible. But a lot of the ways that God blesses us is not in some intrinsic gift, but it's through opportunities. And it's up to us to take advantage of them because we're not robots. We have been blessed with free will, I believe. And I think the whole goal of the free will is that we choose to take advantage and like appreciate what like we have been offered.
That's true. So, wonderful. Now the toughest question we ask every guest who come here is, what advice would you give to your younger self? And younger self, we don't want to go to 5 years old because you didn't know what you are doing at the time. 18 years to 21. How would you have advised yourself in those circumstances?
It's a good question. There's like so many different elements of life that you can advise on. But okay, so how about this? I've literally been giving advice to like my little cousin. She's so smart. I'm so proud of her. And she's like 14 years old, so it's close enough. She's as smart as I was when I was 18 when she's 14. So I think like the stuff will map. So I tell Sarah that, like it's very important to take advantage of the opportunities as they come towards you. Try for everything. Like, don't worry about not knowing things, feeling ignorant, feeling stupid. Because again, no one's born knowing anything. And the best time to learn something that you don't know is right now. Like, don't like wait and think like, oh, I need to learn everything else first. And then like once I'm older and more ready, then I can start working on that stuff. No, you learn by doing. So just start doing. One of the issues that I personally had problems with, so I'm not sure if this generalizes to everyone, is finishing like a project. I love this world. I'm passionate about so much stuff. So like I have like a huge amount of breadth of experiences. I've been blessed with good mentors in my life, and they've been willing to like give me their time. But there's like projects that I could have finished, for example, with like one of my advisors in Germany, Nihat I and Kian Ghazi Zahidi. I love those guys. They were like huge inspirations for them. But I spent a year in Germany. I didn't like finish the project. This is when I was like 19. And so I think back to that. I'm like, why wasn't I able to finish? And it's because, I would see a new idea. I'd get excited by that. New idea, excited by that. And it's just having the patience and the calmness to just take it one thing at a time. Enjoy the moments as they come. Because, in my mind, I thought like, oh, I'll come back to this later. I'll come back to this later. But you don't know if there's going to be a later. And as you grow, there's always going to be more opportunities. It's very important to learn to say no, to be humble, and to again like just have faith in like the process you're doing. Things might not make sense looking forward, but things always make sense looking back.
That is so true. We took you into giving advice. Don't wait. Don't take opportunities as they come. Finish the projects. These are all good advice. And you know what I forgot to ask you about?
What's up?
What are your future plans?
Future
and
plans.
with your PhD, Harvard graduation will happen. I promise to come and support you at your graduation.
Inshallah, I would love to host you. That's fantastic.
Then I will get to meet your mom, meet your dad. You have a sister.
I do, and she's so smart. She did a PhD in organic chemistry. She's fantastic.
Family of PhDs. What are your future plans, Hamza?
So my future plans, and it's not necessarily what's going to happen. What's going to happen is like up to God. But right now, I don't think I plan on going for a professorship. after I finish my PhD, inshallah, like, I'm very interested in the idea of entrepreneurship. I think the space that I'm involved in, artificial intelligence and stuff like brain machine interfaces, are growing markets. And, I'd like to try to launch a startup of some kind. Now, what the exact field I'd work on is undetermined. I'm working part-time at a venture capital firm. And so what that means is like they'll assess new startups and they'll give them the initial funding they need to like actually test out their ideas. And this, like a VC called The Engine, focuses specifically on problems within like hard tech, tough tech, deep tech, whatever you want to call it. So things like geoengineering, like neuroengineering, like climate change, human health, like semiconductor design, like very hard technical problems that people from Harvard and MIT work on. And so I've been learning a lot from that. And based on that, I've been like thinking of a few different startup ideas. If it fails, I'll start another one, keep on pivoting, something will land. I have faith. And then the end game for me is like I just want to work with like orphanages and schools in developing countries. And like I want to be able to just optimize their supply chains. I know this is kind of like a mundane thing, but I think I see so much room for economy of scale in this problem. I don't see like why an orphanage in Uganda, an orphanage in, or not even just in Uganda, like multiple orphanages in Uganda, or let's just say like something in like a Tanzania, like why they have to handle all this complex like problem of like procuring food, water, cyber infrastructure all by themselves.
Yes.
I see room for like optimizing it, aggregating it together. Whether that needs AI or not, I don't know. If it does, then I'm on it. But if it doesn't, then I'm still on it. And that would be the end game for me. And then, the hope is that by having some successful businesses with an AI, I can develop like kind of like credibility and expertise in this space as well. So people are willing to trust what I have to say. And if things go perfectly, I'd love to like, maybe start an institute, like a research institute, because I still love research. And it would be maybe like, this is inspired by something my friend Colton Zacharias instilled into me. Like I have a love for the idea of imagination.
Yes.
So I'd love to like have a research institute focused on the science of imagination, whether that be in AI or neuroscience or like economic imagination, sociology, imagination. How do new ideas form? How do they come about? Bunch of ideas. I don't know. A bunch more as well that I'm not going to talk about right now. But it's a big world, huge dreams. But Allahu Alam.
That is amazing and a good way to end our conversation as we focus into the future, knowing we don't have control of the future, but God does. We plan and we continue to look forward to more things coming up. Hamza, I appreciate you being our guest today. I appreciate your parents who raised you to be curious. I appreciate your mentorship to people way, way, way around the world and your passion to continue changing this world. Entrepreneurship is huge. The opportunities are big and we need more people. Don't worry about whether it's startup and fail. The episode right before this one was talking about starting businesses and investing in short term, mid term, and long term. So we will continue to come here, ladies and gentlemen, to learn, relearn, and unlearn. We'll continue to bring you more people around the world who are ordinary doing extraordinary things. Mostly to encourage you also to not fear, go for it. Fearless leader Hamza doing his PhD in mathematics. And what did you say? Applied neuroscience.
The focus is mathematics focused on AI and neuroscience.
So mechanics of your brain, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Hamza. Appreciate you, man. Subscribe, share, and continue to learn with us.
Smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much, CJ. It's a pleasure being here.